The chimes of Big Ben echoed across London as Veronica Clark hurried through the bustling streets, clutching an old briefcase tightly. The chilly March wind seeped through her thin coat, but it couldn't extinguish her determination. This wasn't just a job interview. For Veronica, this was her last chance to salvage her life and provide for Noah, her 6-year-old son she had promised to protect at all costs. "Do you think they'll give you the job, Mom?" Noah asked, his cheerful voice warming the frosty air. The little boy sat beside her on their final bus ride to West London, his wide, curious eyes filled with innocence. "I'll do my best," Veronica replied with a smile, though her heart churned with anxiety. "And you, remember to behave yourself with Miss Margaret, okay?" Noah nodded, his small hand clutching his familiar asthma inhaler. "I'll read my books and won't run around." The bus came to a halt in front of a narrow road leading to a luxurious neighborhood where towering trees shaded grand mansions. Veronica stepped off, the sound of her worn heels clicking against the stone pavement. Before her stood a massive iron gate, behind which loomed an imposing mansion with polished stone walls and large windows reflecting the pale morning sun. Taking a deep breath, Veronica pressed the gate buzzer. A stern female voice crackled through the intercom. "Ms. Clark, correct? I'm Mrs. Carlyle, Mr. Blackwell's housekeeper. Please come in." The gate opened automatically with a soft clank, and Veronica stepped into a sprawling, meticulously trimmed garden. Everything here exuded grandeur and coldness, as if designed to impress rather than to be loved. She shivered slightly, unsure if it was from the weather or the heavy atmosphere of the place. Mrs. Carlyle, a middle-aged woman with her hair neatly pinned up and sharp eyes, stood waiting at the entrance. "This way, please. Mr. Blackwell doesn't appreciate being kept waiting." Veronica followed her into the mansion, where opulence overwhelmed her senses. Soaring ceilings, sparkling crystal chandeliers, and cool marble floors. Despite the abundant light, the air carried an inexplicable melancholy. The doors to the living room opened, revealing Christopher Blackwell, a man seated in a custom-designed wheelchair, his presence radiating authority despite the weariness in his eyes. He regarded Veronica with a cold, gray gaze devoid of warmth. "You're the 7th candidate I've interviewed this month," he said, his deep voice tinged with indifference. "What makes you any different from the others?" Veronica swallowed, steadying her voice. "I don't just need this job. I'll do everything to keep it." Chris smirked slightly, a hint of curiosity flashing in his eyes. "Then let's get started. But don't get your hopes up. I'm not easily impressed." For Veronica, this was only the beginning of a challenging journey, but she believed she could endure it. She wasn't just searching for a job. She was searching for a brighter future for herself and Noah. Welcome to today's story. Let us know in the comments which city you're watching from so we can see how far this story reaches across the world. Don't forget to subscribe to Soul Stories to catch meaningful stories like this every day. Chapter 1. Struggles to Connect. The early morning sunlight streamed through the grand windows of the mansion, casting a glow on the polished marble floors. Veronica carefully arranged the care supplies according to the instructions Mrs. Carlyle had just given her. The thick notebook in her hands detailed Christopher Blackwell's routines and preferences, precise schedules, his preferred type of coffee, and his absolute intolerance for any deviations in his daily processes. "Mr. Blackwell does not tolerate tardiness or carelessness," Mrs. Carlyle emphasized. "You must remember that. And don't try to be friendly. He doesn't appreciate pity." Veronica pressed her lips together and nodded. She knew she had to remain calm and professional if she wanted to keep this job. But nothing came easy. Chris Blackwell, with his cold demeanor and sharp remarks, missed no opportunity to test Veronica's patience. "Did you mix the coffee to the exact ratio?" Chris asked as Veronica placed a cup on his desk. "Yes, according to Mrs. Carlyle's instructions," she replied gently. Chris took a sip, then raised an eyebrow. "Too bitter. Do it again." Veronica gripped the tray tightly, but she responded with a composed smile. "I'll fix it right away." Despite the difficulties, Veronica remained patient. She refused to let Chris's cutting remarks discourage her, understanding that he wasn't just a demanding employer, but also a lonely man burdened by his own pain. She saw it in his eyes whenever he stared silently out the window. The challenges didn't end with the job. Veronica also had to balance taking care of Chris and looking after Noah. She needed to drop him off at school every morning and pick him up in the afternoon, all while constantly worrying about his asthma. One day when her babysitter unexpectedly canceled, Veronica had no choice but to bring Noah to the mansion with her. She explained the situation to Mrs. Carlyle, who reluctantly allowed Noah to accompany her. Noah's curiosity was piqued as he explored the grand mansion, his eyes lighting up at the sight of the paintings on the walls and the antique piano in the living room. But what fascinated him most was Chris's advanced wheelchair. "Does it go fast, Mom?" Noah asked, his face full of excitement. Chris frowned at the question and turned toward Noah. "It's not built for racing," he replied curtly. Veronica quickly pulled Noah close. "Noah, don't ask that." "I'm sorry, Mr. Blackwell." But Noah, in his innocent way, didn't stop. "I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's really cool. I want to be an astronaut, so I want to build things like that." Chris froze. His eyes, usually filled with weariness and sarcasm, flickered with a hint of curiosity. "An astronaut?" he asked, his tone softening slightly. "Yes," Noah nodded enthusiastically. "I want to go to Mars and explore new planets." Chris said nothing more, but he seemed to quietly observe Noah for a little longer than usual. That afternoon, as Noah played with his toy blocks on the floor, Veronica sat by Chris, carefully reviewing the checklist of tasks. The usual tension between them seemed to have eased slightly. "You always keep everything under control, don't you?" Chris suddenly remarked. Veronica looked up at him. "I don't have much of a choice. Being a single mother means always being prepared for everything." Chris smirked faintly but said nothing more. Veronica, noticing the lingering sadness in his eyes, spoke softly. "Everyone needs help at some point, whether they realize it or not." Chris stared at her, as though weighing the meaning of her words. A moment of silence passed before he turned away, but unlike before, he didn't offer any rebuttal. It wasn't a major breakthrough, but to Veronica, it was a small step forward, and sometimes a single small step could change the course of an entire journey. Chapter 2. A Fragile Bond Forms. The Blackwell mansion in the afternoon exuded a serene yet distant beauty. The dark wooden walls and towering bookshelves in the library seemed to swallow every sound. After finishing her morning tasks, Veronica decided to try something new to soften the mansion's cold, unwelcoming atmosphere. She sat at the antique piano placed prominently in the library, lightly running her fingers across the keys. The room filled with the classical melodies of Debussy's Clair de Lune. Veronica wasn't a professional pianist, but she had learned the instrument as a child and knew how to infuse emotion into each note. Chris, seated in a corner of the room with his eyes fixed on his computer screen, paused as the first notes reached him. He said nothing, but his hands hovering over the keyboard stilled. Veronica continued to play, deliberately ignoring his usual cold gaze. When the piece ended, Chris turned his head, his expression slightly softer than usual. "You play piano," he remarked evenly. Veronica smiled as she stood. "Music makes everything feel a bit warmer. I thought you might like it." Chris didn't reply, but he didn't object when she began playing again on subsequent afternoons. While Veronica sought connection through music, Noah found a new fascination in Chris's impressive collection of astronomy books. One morning, as Chris read the newspaper in the living room, Noah approached the bookshelves cautiously. "Mr. Blackwell, may I borrow this book?" Noah asked, pointing to a thick volume with planets on the cover. Chris looked up, his piercing eyes scrutinizing the boy. "What does a 6-year-old want with that?" "I want to know why Mars is red," Noah replied earnestly, "and if people can live there." Chris's lips twitched in mild irritation, but instead of dismissing Noah, he gestured to the chair opposite him. "Sit down. I'll explain." From a distance, Veronica watched this unexpected interaction, her heart warming. Chris, who had built walls around himself, was slowly letting them down thanks to Noah's innocent questions. One evening, after Noah had gone to bed, Veronica sat with Chris to review the next day's schedule. For the first time, Chris opened up about his life. "Have you ever wondered why I'm in a wheelchair?" he asked, his gaze fixed on the window. Veronica stayed silent, waiting for him to continue. "I had a skiing accident," Chris began, his voice heavy with sorrow. "One reckless decision, and I paid for it with my future." He paused before adding, "But it wasn't just me. My fiancée." She couldn't handle seeing me like this. She left not long after. Veronica's throat tightened. I'm so sorry, she said softly. Chris shook his head. Don't be. I've grown used to the solitude. It's how I live. Veronica realized that behind Chris's bitterness and detachment was a deep well of pain. Understanding this made her even more determined to help him open up. A turning point came one afternoon as Noah played in the library. Suddenly, he had a severe asthma attack. Veronica panicked, frantically searching for his inhaler, but unable to find it. What's going on? Chris asked, noticing her distress. Noah, he's having an asthma attack, Veronica stammered, her hands trembling. Chris immediately moved closer. Calm down. Give me the inhaler. I can't find it, Veronica replied, her voice breaking. Chris scanned the room, quickly spotting Noah's bag. He retrieved the inhaler and handed it to Veronica. Keep his head elevated and help him take deep breaths, Chris instructed, his voice steady and firm. Following his directions, Veronica managed to stabilize Noah's breathing. As the boy clung to her, Veronica collapsed onto the floor, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, she said to Chris, her voice shaking with gratitude. Chris nodded, his eyes lingering on Noah. In that moment, Veronica saw a different side of him. Not the cold, bitter man he appeared to be, but someone who genuinely cared, even if he tried to hide it. That evening, after Noah had gone to sleep, Veronica returned to the library to thank Chris again. I wouldn't have known what to do without you, she said. Chris shrugged. He's a smart kid. I couldn't just stand by and watch him struggle. Veronica smiled, feeling the distance between them slowly shrinking. Chris didn't say anything more, but in his eyes, Veronica noticed a subtle change. It wasn't much, but it was meaningful. A fragile bond had begun to form, like a faint light breaking through a long, dark room. Chapter 3. Challenges and Secrets. The London sky bore a soft gray hue as faint sunlight filtered through the grand windows of the Blackwell mansion. Veronica, tidying up the library, accidentally nudged a bookshelf, causing it to slide back and reveal a hidden passage leading to the basement. What is this? She muttered, grabbing a flashlight from a nearby shelf and cautiously descending the stairs. The secret room unfolded before her like a forgotten treasure trove. The walls were covered with blueprints, schematics for motorized wheelchairs, and assistive devices. In the corner stood a dust-laden desk cluttered with incomplete models, as though time had frozen since Chris's accident. Veronica marveled at the ingenuity and creativity Chris once possessed. She quickly realized this was a part of his life he had kept hidden, a passion left behind in the wake of his trauma. That evening, Veronica decided to confront Chris. He was sitting in the living room, his gaze drifting aimlessly toward the garden. I found a room in the basement, she began cautiously. Chris turned, his eyes instantly hardening. You shouldn't wander around the house. Chris, don't do this. I saw your designs. They're incredible. You once created ideas that could change the lives of millions. Chris smirked bitterly. That's ancient history. I'm nothing now. That's not true, Veronica insisted. I see the potential in those designs. We can bring them back to life and make them a reality. Chris remained silent, his eyes reflecting inner turmoil. Her frankness stirred something within him. After a long pause, he sighed. Do you really think they're worth anything? I don't just think so. I know it. You're not just helping yourself. You're helping millions like you. In the days that followed, Chris began working on his designs again. With Veronica's help, they organized his documents and dusted off the remnants of his old ideas. Together, they sorted through the blueprints, selecting the most feasible projects. Veronica also reached out to tech companies and charitable organizations to seek support. Noah became an integral part of the project, his curiosity fueling endless questions about how the wheelchairs worked and their voice command features. One evening, as Chris and Veronica discussed technical details, Noah chimed in, Mr. Chris, what if your wheelchair could stop automatically when there's something in the way, like a car does? Chris looked at the boy, momentarily surprised. That's an excellent idea, Noah. I'll write it down. Noah's small but creative contributions not only advanced the project, but also inspired Chris. He began spending long hours in the workshop, seemingly rediscovering himself with each prototype and test run. However, their progress was disrupted when Victor, Chris's brother, unexpectedly arrived at the mansion. Tall, impeccably dressed, and with sharp, calculating eyes, Victor stormed into the living room like a whirlwind. "Chris," Victor began, his tone authoritative, "you need to stop wasting time on this nonsense. Sell the company and enjoy life. You're no longer capable of running it." Chris gripped the armrest of his wheelchair tightly, his expression darkening. "I don't need you to tell me what to do." Victor shrugged, his gaze sweeping disdainfully over Veronica and Noah, as if they were mere obstacles. "You know the company's value is plummeting. We need to focus on profitable ventures instead of these meaningless charity projects." "These projects aren't meaningless," Veronica interjected firmly. "We're creating something that will have a real impact on millions of lives. If you can't see that, maybe you're the one who shouldn't be in charge." Victor froze, his expression shifting from irritation to surprise. "Who are you to speak like that?" "I'm someone who sees that Chris still has the power to make a difference. He doesn't need you or anyone else to belittle him." Chris glanced at Veronica, a mix of gratitude and admiration filling his eyes. For the first time in years, someone had stood up for him in front of Victor. Victor sneered. "Fine. If you want to waste your time, so be it. But don't say I didn't warn you." He turned on his heel and stormed out, leaving behind a tense silence. After Victor's departure, Chris sat in quiet contemplation. Veronica joined him, resting a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to prove anything to him," she said softly. "You just have to believe in yourself." Chris nodded, a rare smile gracing his lips. "Thank you, Veronica, for believing in me, even when I couldn't." The once cold mansion now felt warmer, filled with the shared efforts of the three of them. Victor's challenges only strengthened their resolve, not just to prove that Chris could achieve greatness, but to affirm the importance of pursuing meaningful goals. Their bond grew stronger, like a flicker of light in the darkness, steadily growing brighter and more resilient. Are you still following the story? Leave a comment with "smile" to let us know you're here. Don't forget to share your thoughts about the story in the comments below. Chapter 4. A Shared Mission. The morning in London was brisk, but the atmosphere inside a bright, modern conference room buzzed with intensity as skeptical gazes from potential investors bore down on Chris and Veronica. Standing beside Chris, her hand clutching a stack of presentation materials, Veronica exuded a calm confidence. Meanwhile, Chris sat composed in his specially designed wheelchair, his face serene, but his eyes ablaze with determination. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chris began, his steady voice commanding attention, "the designs I am about to present are not just technological innovations. They are opportunities to restore freedom and dignity to those with disabilities. I know this because I've experienced the loss of that freedom myself." Chris launched into his presentation, showcasing wheelchairs integrated with AI technology, features like adjustable height and voice recognition, allowing users to control the device with simple commands. Some investors initially wore expressions of doubt, raising pointed questions about feasibility and market potential. Sensing the rising tension, Veronica stepped forward. "These designs are not just about convenience," she said with conviction. "They're tools for life-changing impact. This is an opportunity to invest in humanity and meaningful innovation." An older investor leaned forward. "Ms. Clark, why do you believe in this project so strongly?" Veronica drew a deep breath. "Because I've witnessed the miracles these designs can bring, not just for Chris, but for my son as well. These ideas are not merely technology, they are hope." Her heartfelt response softened the room's mood. By the end of the tense presentation, they secured commitments from several investors. Chris and Veronica left the conference room with a sense of relief and excitement for the future. As time passed, Chris's new company began operations and quickly gained recognition. The advanced wheelchair designs received positive feedback from trial users, including hospitals and nonprofit organizations. Noah became the project's unofficial young ambassador, participating in presentations and offering a child's perspective on the technology's ease of use. His enthusiasm not only charmed attendees, but also reignited Chris's creative spirit. Yet just as everything seemed to be progressing smoothly, Veronica received a job offer from a prestigious NGO in Manchester. The higher salary and stability left her conflicted. Accepting the position would mean relocating and uprooting Noah from the life they had begun building with Chris. One evening, Veronica and Chris sat in the library, the flickering firelight casting shadows on the dark wood-paneled walls. "Chris, I've received a job offer," Veronica began, her voice steady but tinged with hesitation. "I haven't decided yet, but if I accept, I'll have to leave here." Chris's heart sank at her words. "It's a good opportunity. You should pursue it." "But I'm not sure." Veronica hesitated. "We've been working so well together. I don't want to lose that." Chris inhaled deeply, his eyes meeting hers. "Veronica, I don't want you to stay because of me. I want you to stay because we're building something meaningful together. If you leave, I'll support your decision. But I hope you see this place as more than just a job. It's a family." Tears welled in Veronica's eyes. "I'll think about it," she whispered. While Veronica was still mulling over her decision, Victor returned unexpectedly, armed with legal documents aiming to take control of the company. During an urgent meeting at the mansion, Victor declared that Chris was unfit to manage the business and threatened to take him to court. "Chris, you must understand that this company is our family's legacy," Victor said, his tone laced with arrogance. "You're gambling it away on projects with no future." For the first time, Chris didn't shy away. "Victor, this isn't just our family's legacy. This is an opportunity to change the lives of people like me." Victor smirked. "Do you really think you can beat me?" "He doesn't have to," Veronica interjected firmly. "Chris has a team behind him, people who believe in his vision, and I'm one of them." Noah, standing nearby, stepped forward and took Chris's hand. "Uncle Chris taught me not to be scared of bullies, even if they're bigger than me." Victor froze, speechless. Seeing Chris supported by Veronica and Noah, he realized his once unshakable authority had waned. After a long pause, Victor stood. "I'll let the courts decide," he said before leaving. Later that day, Chris returned to the library. Veronica and Noah were there, sketching ideas for new projects together. "Thank you," Chris said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't think I could have done this without you two." Veronica smiled warmly. "We're a team, remember?" Chris nodded, feeling a lightness in his heart for the first time in years. Their bond had grown beyond professional collaboration into something deeper, a new family built on trust, support, and love. The challenges ahead no longer felt like barriers, but stepping stones for their shared journey forward. Chapter 5. Love and Transformation. The charity gala took place in a luxurious hotel in central London, where shimmering lights reflected off glass walls and the elegant attire of the attendees. This was more than just the launch event for Chris's assistive technology company. It was also a moment for him to honor those who had walked with him through his journey of struggle and triumph. Chris, dressed impeccably in a black suit, sat center stage. His gaze no longer carried the sorrow of years past, but was filled with pride and determination. Around him, photos and videos showcased prototypes of AI-integrated wheelchairs, symbols of a brighter future for people with disabilities. As the stage lights focused on him, Chris began his speech. "Years ago, I thought my life was over. My accident didn't just take away my ability to walk, it took away my hope. But today I stand here, not only to launch this company, but to thank the people who helped me rediscover the meaning of life." His eyes searched the room until they landed on Veronica and Noah, sitting together, radiant and attentive. "Veronica Clark," Chris continued, his voice trembling slightly, "you taught me that limitations only exist in our minds. You didn't just help me face my pain, you gave me the courage to overcome it. And Noah, you are my greatest inspiration. You've shown me that nothing is impossible if we have faith and passion." The audience erupted into applause as Chris concluded with an important announcement. "I dedicate all of our achievements to those who refuse to let physical limitations define them. From this day forward, we will work tirelessly to ensure that technology isn't a privilege, but an opportunity for everyone." After the gala, in the tranquil garden behind the hotel, Chris and Veronica stood together under the soft glow of lanterns. Noah darted around the garden, laughing as he chased fireflies. "Veronica," Chris began, his voice warm and steady, "there's something I've been wanting to say for a long time." She turned to him, her clear eyes filled with understanding. You and Noah haven't just changed my life. You've become the family I always wished for but never thought I'd have. I don't just want to work with you, I want to build a life with you. Chris pulled out a small velvet box, revealing a beautifully crafted ring. Veronica Clark, will you marry me and build a family with Noah and me? Tears streamed down Veronica's cheeks as she nodded, her radiant smile lighting up her face. Yes, Chris, I will. Nearby, Noah raced over and threw his arms around both of them, shouting in joy, I'll have a real family, I'm so happy. A week later in the workshop at the mansion, the three of them worked together to assemble the first prototype of a new wheelchair design. Noah sat on the workbench, carefully handing tools to Chris, while Veronica helped double-check the components. Mom, Uncle Chris, we're like a superhero team, aren't we? Noah asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Exactly, Noah, Veronica replied, bending down to kiss his hair. We're a team, always. Chris smiled, his gaze filled with love as he looked at them both. And this team isn't just changing our lives, it's going to change the world. Noah's laughter filled the workshop, blending with the hum of tools, symbolizing a new beginning, a family built on love, trust, and transformation. Thank you for following this story. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to share with your friends, like, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales.